Welcome back to episode 24 of the CatchMark SportsNet podcast. I'm your host, Zach Zweigel, joined here by my co-host, Scott DeCamp.
What's up, everybody?
And Brent Rath.
What's up? I'm still working on this posture here. I feel like I got a hump.
You'll get it down.
Okay.
Look at the camera and I'm like, anyways. Yeah.
Today we have a very special guest, Todd Herremans, former graduate from Ravenna High School and former NFL lineman. Todd, welcome today.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, absolutely. We were just talking about the West Michigan Conference, kind of the history and it expanding, and it's kind of crazy to know that I'm sitting next to a former NFL lineman, and the world's still so small, right? Like we're all from the same area, and you've got a unique opportunity to kind of to see it from a different light. So talk a little bit about growing up in this community, and now obviously you come back and visit and so on, and what that's like for you.
Well, I think it's very cool. I mean, to start off, it's I don't really know how to. It's just a great start, guys. It's cool. It's like something that I could have never dreamed of in my wildest dreams. And then I lived it, and I never really felt like it was something I was chasing after real hard. It just kind of felt like it was just a path, and everything was just kind of happening. And people ask me about that all the time. And, oh man, talking about luck and stuff like that. And I always think, one of my biggest things is there's really not anything. Luck is nothing but opportunity meeting preparation, And
Sure.
so like, if you're prepared, you're ready to seize that moment. And that's what luck is. And lucky people just seize opportunities all the time because they're ready for it.
Yeah. That's why there's a reason why some people seem luckier than others, right? Quote, luckier.
Yeah.
Because they're in their position.
Right. And one of my coaches in the NFL, one of his things was hard work pays off. Hard work pays off. And I don't want to simplify that because you can't really simplify that anymore, but he's right. If you work your butt off, eventually those opportunities will come, and you have to be ready for those opportunities when they do come. And I think that, there was no like special path. Like, I went to a D2 school. I thought I was not even going to play anymore after that. I was like, I don't really know what I want to do with my life, so I might as well keep playing football a little bit, for the next 4 years, kind of put off reality. Yeah. And then like this bug got in about going to the next level, and I was like, well, heck, if that works out, that'd be cool. I've been doing that my whole life, and then it just gave me something to work toward.
So if you wouldn't have made it, what was the plan?
That's interesting. I don't know.
Well, good thing
I'm not really a planner, and I think that's kind of why it felt like everything just kind of unrolled as I was going.
Yeah.
I went to school initially for graphic design because I consider myself a little bit of an artist. I do not musical.
Hey, are you available? I mean, we might have some employment opportunities here. So like, come on home. Like,
no, I always like drawing. My mom would take me to art camps and stuff I'd have to go to, and probably a little side of me people don't know. They think that I just grew up sports. But I was a very good student. And then art took me into college. I was like, I really was fascinated with architecture. I wanted to be an architect.
That's awesome.
And then I went in the art classes. If you guys know anything about art classes, they're really long for the amount of credit hours you get. So like there was this art history class. It was every Friday, but it was like 6 hours long. You had like an hour break in between 2 3-hour sessions. And I think I went to it for maybe 2 weeks. And I was like, I'm going to change my mind.
The hardest course I ever took, and the hardest test I ever took, I had a humanities art. It was an art history of art. And like the
lot of history there, right?
Oh my gosh, man. Like the final was like, it was literally the hardest test I've ever taken. Like to be able to recognize like the artist and the period and like all these different, it was terrible. Like it was awful. I would never take that class again.
It's kind of funny that Whitehall football coach, Tony Sigmund, he's also an art teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, how often are you going to see that where a football coach, high school football coach, it's usually PE or whatever.
Well,
he's an art teacher.
You get an extra practice if you're a PE teacher.
right.
Yeah, that's right.
No, it is a unique combo though, for sure. That's
I actually think, the creative mind is kind of what that creative side of the brain is kind of what helped me on the field a lot is just kind of adjusting, adapting, being able to problem solve on the fly, stuff like that. I know a lot of people wouldn't think that it really translates like that because when it comes to football, you have a job and you're supposed to do that job. And then if everybody does their job, then you score a point. You know what I mean? But there's so many things that happen on every play. You know, you can go into a game and see stuff that you never even saw 5 years of film. But yeah, I think that really helped. And so along that, I gave up on that. I was like, well, you know, maybe this is it for me. Criminal justice seemed cool for a while. But then I couldn't really see myself as a cop. So I think I maybe spent 1 semester in criminal justice. And then that was when my coaches were kind of telling me like, hey, you got a chance to play in the NFL. And I was like, all right, so
twist my arm.
Exercise phys, here I come. I mean, it's a degree a lot of athletes go into, like sports science, stuff like that. But I mean, it makes sense. If you're going to turn that into your career, or hopefully turn it into a career, you'd want to understand what your body's doing. You don't want to go into a training room and lay on a table and not have any clue what they're talking about. So that was kind of something that I was really interested in, how the body worked, how it healed, how it broke down, stuff like that. So I think that kind of helped me along the way. But back to your original point, like I'm tangenting here.
No, it's great.
It's good. Yeah.
It's cool coming home. It's a little weird because while you're away, it's almost like this aura is created about you. And then you come home and you're just the same person, you know?
Yeah. Right.
People obviously want to come and say hi and talk, and I love it. I love taking the time to talk to everybody, say hi, how are you doing? How's your family? You know?
It's got to be a little stressful sometimes, though, for you.
I
Like,
wouldn't call it stressful. It's like I want to make everybody happy.
Yeah,
You know? So
yeah.
like I want to spend that time with everybody, but at the same time, like I don't see my family that often. So I really want to spend it with them when I come home. So it's just this balancing act. I don't want anybody to ever think I'm like some jerk.
now, now I feel bad. Now we got you in here. You just want to spend time with your family over Easter. We got you in here on the podcast.
Yeah.
I was with them all weekend.
Yeah. That's enough, huh? Oh, that's good.
That is good. I like it. We have a few points here in regard to your upbringing, you know, a little bit. And you touched on that, you know, a little bit. You talked about, you know, your mom bringing you to art, you know, to art shows and that kind of thing. Just talk about, you know, Ravenna, like growing up in Ravenna, your experience there, and then your family life growing up and how you got tied in with sports. If you know Ravenna at all, you know the name Herremans. Like that's just the way it goes.
Well, you know, my dad's been an anchor there for a while, so that helps out. We've had, my dad was born and raised, so we have a big conglomerate of Herremans in Ravenna, or at least we did. My brother's still there with his family now, and his daughters, you know, his daughters are climbing the softball world right now, which is a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, that's Emma. Emma is his niece.
Stud,
she can rake.
Yeah,
I saw her there. I mean, I had seen videos, but I saw her for the first time actually in action last week, and man,
And she's a freshman.
she's
too,
really
right?
good. She's put in so much time. Her and Scott, she's Todd's brother Scott, and Marie. Obviously, they put in so much time on that.
Yeah,
That's cool.
There's another one coming up the pipe too. Reese's.
Yeah.
Oh,
Reese's
geez.
right there
Yeah.
too. But it's just a lot of fun to watch. But growing up in that atmosphere, you know, I think probably a lot of West Michigan Conference schools feel this way. Is like they watch the movie Varsity Blues, and like that was our life. It seemed like maybe a little gassed up, you know, but that was very like relatable to Ravenna, especially through the 90s when we're going to the Super Bowl, or not the Super Bowl, but the Silver Dome and playing and stuff like that. So I think just having that kind of an upbringing, like you couldn't go out without people knowing who you were, you know, or get into trouble. Like my dad worked at the school, so the teachers I would beg for them to give me a detention rather than go tell my dad what I was doing. You know, I just wanted to, but no, they were like, no, I'll just go tell your dad. He'll take care of it when you get home.
Yeah.
He would too, and he didn't mess around.
Right.
He's a pretty direct person.
But I just think the blue collar small town thing, it built me into who I am. It helped me, I guess, stay level along the way and not feel like I was bigger than anything that I was.
I always attributed it to like small towns and you hate it as a kid. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like I hated it. I hated that, you know, my grandpa, you couldn't get away from the mistakes you made. Like,
yeah, that's true.
You know, like, and it took some perspective for me, but like you learn about accountability. You learn about, you have people that will tell you, hey dude, you're screwing up. You're being stupid.
Yeah.
Like, and then they'll tell your parents, hey, Brent's being stupid, you know, like, so I really appreciated that. And I attribute that a lot to how I handle like things in my life and challenges and opportunities and stuff like that. So I completely understand where you're coming from. And then I learned to appreciate that shortly after I left. I'll be honest with you. I'm like, gosh, how do I want my kids to have that, you know? So that's amazing.
Well, the great thing about it is as you get success out of a small community, it feels like the community's
the whole place,
right?
Yep.
Because everybody has a hand in it, because basically that community had a hand in raising you.
Yep.
To take nothing away from my parents, they did a great job.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
But like, they're not around you 24/7 because you're over at your friend's house, screwing around, or you're at work at the pickle station screwing around, you know? So there's like a lot of people that are integral in like forming who you are. And I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm happy that, you know, my nieces are doing it. I actually tried to find a little smaller town outside of Philadelphia to raise my family in. We bought a chunk of land because I was like, okay, I got kids now. So I don't know how to raise them in like a metropolitan area. Best thing I know how to do is raise them on a farm. So let's go buy a farm.
Yeah.
You know?
I should have brought Matt Dara in today. So I got a buddy of mine. Well, he's a business partner of mine, and Matt's from Philly. He absolutely loves everything about Philly. Like, he is nuts about it. Matt he's gonna kill me if and when he hears this podcast. I might not tell him about it. What, bro? Like, he goes back and like all his parents still live there and stuff. So no, that's awesome. So yeah, so you settle out of town and like small town stuff. I mean, that's great. But
yeah, I mean, I love the city of Philadelphia, and it was great while I was living there. Met my wife in Philly. You know, the Phillies game is.
Okay, all right. How do you pull that off?
How do you pull it off?
Well, you're a player. Like,
What
how
kind
do
of
you
player are you talking about here?
Yeah, well, both apparently. But like, so you're playing a game. How do you meet your wife at a Phillies game? Oh, like a baseball game? Oh, Phillies. Not a. My brain isn't working.
Brent.
Not an Eagles game.
In the spring, bro.
Yeah.
Opening day.
My bad. That makes complete sense.
Opening day.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Well, we were set up by a mutual friend of ours.
All right. I was thinking player. How do you like?
Right, like I was running
like
through the
running
tunnel,
through the tunnel, and you're like, hey, that's the one I want.
That's it.
You mean like
I was really impressed there for a second, Todd. Like I was like, woo, this guy's got it.
Was it Ricky Bobby when the chick in the stands flashed him and he was like,
Yep,
you're the one.
Yeah. That's how it went down.
Oh, that's funny.
So you're living outside of Philly. You have 2 kids?
Yeah, 2 kids. My daughter's 6 and my son is 4.
Nice.
So it's been a nice transition, and my daughter came in right at the right time. You know, I finished up in 2015. The 15-16 season was my last season. I got cut by the Colts. You can talk about it if you want. Interesting experience.
You sound a little bitter still about that.
Well, I think that. So, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I think that most guys that make it to the NFL don't know when to quit.
Yeah.
People see it before you do.
Yeah.
Especially the people that are hired to see that kind of thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that that's what happened with me. You know, I felt like I could have played a couple more years. I felt like I could have played at least one more in Philly, and if I would have had that, then I probably would have retired on my own, you know? But it's hard to say if you don't know what's coming in the future.
10, 11, I mean, the shelf life of anybody in the NFL.
Yeah, but
it's so short.
You get to that point where you're like, okay, I played 10 years. Now how do I want this to end? Do I want to try to string it out through 3 different cities and kind of lose my legacy, or do I just want to like call it quits myself? Like one of my best friends in Philly is Brent Selleck, and he played a 10-year career in Philly, won a Super Bowl, called it quits. Like, ideal. Like he's a legend in Philly now because of that. I think Jason Kelsey's probably going to do the same thing after this year. But I was like, that was kind of what I wanted to have happen. I thought I was going to be able to grab like 2 more and make it a 12-year career out of Philly, and then it just didn't happen. I went to Indy. I was a free agent signing, early free agent signing in Indy. I thought it was going to turn out a lot better than it did. I think my legs I started losing a little bit of foot speed, and that's what they told me. I didn't believe them, you know, and then the season wasn't going that well there. I kind of feel like I was a little bit of a scapegoat for things not turning out, but I mean, that
happens. Yeah.
That could easily just be in my head, like making excuses.
And it could be a combination of both. Like, I mean, like, yeah, you know, that's.
But the reality is, if I was still ready to play, then I would have went to another team and played after that. I went to a mini camp in Baltimore. And then I went to a tryout in New Orleans, and none of those worked out. So it was time to hang it up, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a weird transition. And what I was talking about with my daughter is she came in 2016, right after I was done in Indy.
Yeah.
So I was able to like kind of completely devote myself to being a dad. And I didn't have that like emptiness that a lot of guys have when they're like, man, I'm supposed to go to the locker room today. What do I do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't even have a wife. Like, man, what am I going to do? You know, but I was married, you know, we're early in our relationship. We just had our daughter, and that was a saving grace for me, because I see a lot of guys that struggle with the whole transitioning thing, which, you know, it sounds kind of like boo-hoo.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, yeah.
all you rich guys like can't figure out what to do with your time now.
I'm glad you said it, Todd. But
no, I get it. I totally see the reality of it all. But
but like, I mean, you're hitting like I think mentally you can't diminish that. Who throw the dollars and cents and like that is it. It's everybody hits a period, different periods in their life where they transition out of things, and like.
Right. I basically went to school and played football until I was 33, 32 or something like that, which is.
But I mean, but what a phenomenal run, though. I mean,
Jeez.
To do what you did, for that long.
I don't even like football that much.
That's a crazy thing.
I don't. People ask me, they're like, "Man, you must love football," and I'm like,
"That is
not
crazy.
really."
That happens.
I actually like baseball and basketball more than I like football, but you know,
Two good sports there.
I was too slow in basketball. You should see me run wind sprints. And then baseball, my brother got that gene, that gift, you know. So I think the thing in football is that I really grabbed onto, especially when I went to a couple camps and started hearing that I was too slow to play and stuff like that. Let me rephrase that. Like camps coming out of high school, like kind of like where colleges can take a look at.
Right.
You run a 40 on Ferris's field and you run like a 5.5, and then they're like, I don't know if that's going to cut it, Todd. And I'm like, but I'm supposed to go to D1. You see all the mail I got all the last 2 years while I was in high school, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was just kind of football was kind of an avenue for me to prove people wrong.
And that's the
awesome.
thing. I mean, you were all state, though, in high school, correct? So, I mean, you were a good player, but I know I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit.
That's all right.
And so you can rein us back in, Zach, if you want. But since we're on the topic, I remember hearing a story, but it was second or third hand during your recruitment. And I don't know if you want to share it or not, but Saginaw Valley and then Grand Valley. Did Brian Kelly show up at your door at home or not?
Yeah, Brian Kelly came over. So this was, Grand Valley. I have no ill will towards Grand Valley. I had a lot of friends that went to Grand Valley, played at Grand Valley, coached at Grand Valley. Guys that played at Saginaw with me and then went and coached at Grand Valley. Great school, great organization, great program. When I was coming out, there was something about not wanting to go to school in my backyard that, you know, just going away to college was very appealing to me, you know, and like I wanted to get out, you know?
Yeah.
And it's funny because my mom brings this up and she's like, you know, your brother always couldn't wait to get out of Ravenna when he was growing up. And now he lives here with his family and he's like kind of a cornerstone of the community. And you just would have been happy staying home and, you know, settling down and there you go.
I know. Funny how it works out.
How did I sidetrack there?
You're talking about Brian Kelly.
With Brian Kelly.
Oh, yeah. So, the whole recruiting process, Mike Evans was the O-line coach at Saginaw while I was there. And he came over and he was just, we're still really good friends to this day. He's just a rough and tumble guy. He played a couple years for the Steelers. And then he ended up coaching, but he was just, I think he was telling me that I could play in the league as a freshman. And I was like, okay, you know, everybody likes to hear that, but at the same time, you don't want to believe it. And Brian Kelly, there was just this, I mean, they were a good program. There was just this arrogance about him when he came to the house. He came over, he like, you know, put his hand out. Brian Kelly, coach of the Grand Valley State, you know, the hand with the ring on it so that everybody could see. And my mom's like, my dad's kind of like, we know who you are, bro. We made pie. We knew you were coming over. Like, you know, put the big whole charade down. You don't have to do that. You're trying to convince us that our son wants to come play for you. You know?
Yeah.
And it was just, the whole thing kind of like threw me off.
But the word like genuine, like he just wasn't kind of genuine in the
and I mean I knew that they were the power in the GLIAC at that time, so there was a little bit that went with that.
Right.
And he had a right to be, but it was just his style. I mean, you guys have seen him climb the coaching ladder. He's had a great coaching career. But Saginaw, the coaches just felt almost like family a little bit, especially the longer that I was with him. I went up to Ferris, and I remember Ferris was just kind of like between the two. I was like, I'm going to go check out Ferris to make you both kind of like
happy.
Sweat or whatever.
Sweat.
Yeah, to make both of those guys, both those schools. And it just became an easy decision for me. I was like, I don't see how I could go play anywhere else. It's like, I don't even know if I want to play college football. One of the big things was Grand Valley were like, yeah, if you come here, we'll redshirt you. Maybe by the time you're a senior, you'll get out on the field and you'll be a starter. And I was like, they were talking to me wrong because I didn't even like football that much. So it was kind of like,
you're like,
well, I mean, don't really want to practice. Not a practice dummy. And so Saginaw, they were like, you will come here and you start right away as a freshman. And I was like, all right, I can get down with that.
Yeah.
So I did. I went there and I started as a freshman. I definitely had some like learning lumps that I took early on. But then another thing that circled around back to me that kind of helped invigorate my chip on my shoulder from Grand Valley was I remember, I think it was at a high school football camp that the Grand Valley coaches were. I think it was Brian Quinn was maybe the offensive line coach at that time. Maybe it was Brian Quinn. I don't know.
Scott?
Not really that important.
Come on, man. Like, you know everything.
But they were at a Ferris football camp with all the high school coaches. And I remember Randy Helson was our D coordinator at the time, and he was talking to Brian Quinn. And my name came up about something. My dad wasn't there, I don't think, because I think it was a varsity camp or something like that. Maybe it was a passing camp. I don't know what it was. But my name came up, and Quinn said something like, maybe it was maybe my junior year or something. Coach Helson was like, I heard Herremans is getting a little bit of buzz. Maybe might get a shot at the NFL or something like that. And Quinn was like, he'll never play it down in the NFL. And of course, Randy goes and tells my dad. And, and my dad kind of like feeds me that little line. I'm like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
Kind of like Dusty telling my dad, your boy's never going to catch a touchdown. You move him from tight end down into the inside of the line. Because as a freshman, I was playing tight end. So our offensive line on that JV team was massive. I was like the smallest guy. We had Matt Mark Broughton.
Mark Broughton, yeah.
Mark, Shane, Roger Cook, all those big guys. We were playing Pat Wetmore. Just monsters. And so I was actually playing tight end as a freshman, and I had a catch. I remember there was this whole big thing where I was like, my first catch, I came back to the huddle. I was like, I got stats. And that like became this like thing everybody ragged on me for a while. So I never had any stats before, It was all just playing between the tackles. I was always wearing a T on my helmet.
Fast forward to his
right. So then, I got 2 NFL touchdowns.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
It was like
eligible lineman.
After the Seattle game, I remember sitting in the locker room in Seattle and thinking like, never going to catch a touchdown.
That's awesome.
That's funny.
That is super cool.
But like at Saginaw, like it seemed like the flip switch. Maybe it was a progressive thing. It was just kind of a gradual thing. Or how did that whole thing go down? Because obviously you were a dominant lineman there. You were an AP Little All-American, which is basically just the little schools, smaller schools, All-American teams. And, achieving all those things. And then obviously the NFL scouts, you perform well at the right time. I mean, how'd that whole thing go down?
Well, I think that I have to give a lot of credit to Ruvel Martin and Glenn Martinez, who were 2 of the receivers who were a year older than me. They brought a lot of scouts around into our practices and stuff because they were NFL caliber receivers. Ruvel spent some time in the NFL, and so did Glenn. And I didn't know this at the time, but when the scouts were coming around, they were talking to Jim Kieran, who was our offensive coordinator, and he was just kind of like, one of the scouts asked him, is Herremans going to leave early? And then he just didn't even think, he didn't say anything, he didn't ask me, he just goes, no. And so then I heard about this later, I was like, I didn't even know I had the opportunity. Nobody told me that.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that was cool. Dude, I can't.
No, just because you're talking about being like a high school kid running a 5 whatever.
Yeah.
40.
Oh, yeah.
But
You were asking me how did it
and
all
there's
change?
the stories.
Well, I mean,
stories
I
going
matured.
around.
You know, I
Right.
matured late. If you talk to my dad when we ran the mile for baseball tryouts, I think maybe my junior year, he was like, "Oh my God, my kid's got cement feet. Like he can't even move. Like I don't." And then like 2 years later, you know, I got all
like,
these college letters like rolling in and stuff like that.
10 years later, you're like, ha ha, Dad.
Yeah, I mean, I think that.
Are the stories true that you ran a sub 540?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
My junior
I heard.
year, I ran a 4.94.
Yeah. In front of the right people too, right?
Right. So it was my junior day.
Wow.
That's when they come and like have the juniors run 40s. And so some of the scouts were there and they saw that. I ran a 4.94 and I could have swore that I was going to beat it my senior pro day. I ended up pulling both hamstrings when I ran my 40.
Both of them?
Yeah. Turns out I didn't really realize.
That sounds, as my kids would say, that sounds a little sauce, Todd. I don't know.
Turns out
You might.
I
be
didn't
capping.
hydrate like I should. Turns out I didn't hydrate like I was supposed to, and didn't understand the importance of hydration in college. But yeah,
That was at like what, 6'6", whatever, 320. What were you then?
Well, so I was like 6'6", 294,
And ran a 4.9.
494.
Yeah, that's moving.
And then my
Some other
senior
that
year,
size.
I was like, I think I got up to like 305, and I had been clocking under 5.
That is insane, man. Like, that's nuts.
And actually, Shemmy Schembeckler came to my pro day to have me run routes and throw me the ball.
Really?
See how I would be as like a jumbo style tight end and stuff.
Yeah.
And I pulled my hamstrings before I had to go and catch these. I mean, I was a mess. I actually strained my pec earlier too because I was just training like a maniac, you know?
Yeah.
So before my pro day, I think I went to Connecticut to train for, I don't know, like a couple months.
Yeah.
Tore my pec while I was there training, and I was just, another thing. I'm like, okay, now what? I'm not gonna get picked up.
But even when Todd played in the NFL, you'd see him. He'd come back for this or that. If you see him in street clothes, he'd look like maybe what a tight end would look like. That's how what his frame looked like to me, at least.
Well, I feel like as I was in the NFL, the physique of offensive linemen was changing. And, I remember early in my career, Juan was just like, dude, Todd, mass kicks ass. You need to be big. And he just loved having these massive offensive linemen. And we did. We had some big boys.
Was that his name? Yeah.
And when they moved me to guard from my rookie year to my second year, I put on weight because I thought I had to be really heavy. You see pictures of me, I look like I got stung by a bumblebee. Like I was swollen. And I couldn't really move as well. My best years of playing in the NFL, I probably weighed sub 300.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt good. I was strong. I could run with the linebackers. But yeah, that's
Well, I'll be honest
the
with
whole
you.
physique of offensive linemen.
Watching you walk in
lot.
today, to me, and I know you're down. Like a lot of guys, like you, like they lose a lot of weight after they're done playing. But I'm like, he looks more like a center or a basketball player than he does like like a lineman.
Can't jump. Too slow.
Yeah, we had Namath in here a while ago. We should set up like a little
Yeah, Drew
one-on-one.
came in. Yeah.
I remember playing against Drew. That was miserable.
Did you get him?
No, he's so tall.
He is tall.
He
So
is
tall
pretty
and
tall.
long.
It was funny when Drew was sitting here. I don't know if it was this table or the other table, but we had nowhere for his knees to go. Like
He asked
was
about
like,
something on the computer.
Yeah,
he was like, reached across. He was like, right there.
He's like, let me grab that. It was pretty funny. Drew's a good dude though. Like, yeah, that's good.
Well, I think, it became a long shot for me to make it in the NFL. Circling back around, I keep remembering what your question was. And like when it clicked was when they started talking about the possibility. And so then I was like, well, shoot, if I got a chance, if I get the opportunity, I want to be ready. So then my dad was like, I knew something was going on. You were home for Christmas break. You asked me if you'd go up and open up the gym to get a workout in. He's like, then I knew like you were on the path to do something.
Right.
You were taking it seriously. It wasn't just something that you were doing. And that's kind of the MO that I had. I just wanted to be ready if I got that shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's kind of cool. Kind of cool. Talk about getting drafted and like when it became like real, like super real. You're like, I'm going to play in the NFL.
Well, the second day of the draft.
Right.
Well, so I went around. Yeah. So I went to these pre-draft visits, right? So each team gets so many guys that didn't go to the combine that they can bring in to poke and prod and see in person and stuff if they want. They're called a pre-draft visit. I think they use them for first rounders and then also guys that didn't go to the combine. So I went around, I think it was like 13 teams in 2 weeks or something like that. So I was from city to city, just poking, prodding, giving a lot of blood, talking to all these coaches. And it's kind of funny. You don't realize it at the time. These coaches really don't have anything to do with whether you get drafted to their team or not. So I sit down and talk to these coaches and they're like, yeah, you look good, man. Yeah, you look real good. Hope we get you here. And I'm sitting there like, what do you mean? You
don't you decide?
Yeah. What are you doing? And they're just like, I didn't ask that, but as time went on and I get in the NFL, you realize the whole front office and scouting department, all that, it's a whole different animal. But the Russ Grimm was the coach of the Steelers, and he told me that he would bet me that if he'd bet his bass boat that if I was there in, I think, the third round, that they were going to take me. He goes, if you're there in the third round and we don't take you with that third round pick, he goes, I'll bet my bass boat on it. And I was like, all right. So figured me, gullible little boy, I was like, oh, okay, perfect. I'm going to get drafted either in the first or the second round. And if not, then the Steelers will take me in the third. Mm-hmm. So we had all of my friends come over from college that I played with to my parents' farm. And we got a keg and a lot of food.
Because that's what you do in Ravenna at the farm when you're
a party. Because I was about to get drafted that day, right?
Right.
Well, the draft ended the first day of the draft, and we were well, saw that going differently,
Did you keep
now
partying?
What to do? I got all my friends here in town. We went to the pub and we got after it.
I love it.
So much so that the next day we were all just kind of like a MASH unit. Everybody just laying around on the floors, hung over my parents' house, and while the draft was going on, and the phone rang, and I awoke from my half slumber.
This is the best draft story.
So I walk in, I answer the phone. I believe it was Tom Heckert. Hey Todd, this is Tom Heckert from the Philadelphia Eagles. Oh, hey Tom, how you doing? Hey, I think we're gonna trade up for you right here. Oh, really? Cool. He goes, just hold on a minute, stay on the phone. I was like, all right. So I'm sitting there, and he goes, all right, yep, it just went through. He goes, welcome to the Eagles. He goes, it should pop up on the TV here in a minute. And I was like, cool. And I was looking at the team. I was like, it's not even the Eagles pick. Like, what? And then I thought somebody was screwing with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Everybody knows I'm at my parents' house in the draft.
That would be a small town thing to do.
No caller ID. It would have been the easiest thing in the world to do. But then, it switched over. Trade coming in. The pick is in. Todd Herremans, and then Mel Kiper's like, I don't even know. Who is this guy? He's not even on my board. Todd McShay's like, he's Ruvel Martin and Glenn Martinez. They start throwing all their taglines out there to make it seem like they knew what was going on. And after that, everybody just jumping up and down, cheering.
That's awesome.
Pop the champagne, hair of the dog, back at it. It was a really cool moment. I'm glad that we got to share it with my mom and my dad, and then all those guys that I played with at Saginaw. I mean, those are the guys that really pushed me, played around me, worked out with me, helped push me to that point, to get ready for that. And the crazy part is, after being in the NFL for 2 or 3 years, I'm sitting there and I'm like, we had a really good offensive line at Saginaw Valley. I would say 4 out of 5 of those guys could have played in the NFL. It's just a matter of opportunity, or having the right people pump you, or
that's the stuff I always think about. There's gonna be things that slip through how many people are out there that I always think about that. Well,
even my brother, I have no idea what kind of football player my brother was. He has 2 state championships, rings that I don't have,
Yep.
I got to segue this real quick. You probably know where I'm going with this. With Scott, who won those battles when you guys grew up? I'm talking about if you guys threw down.
Scott did. Well, I didn't get big and strong until I was in college.
Yeah.
I don't think
How
we
about
mess around
today,
too much.
Who would win?
Scott's a large man, too.
I think Scott still might. There's that. It's almost like old man strength, but it's like a big brother.
Strength. Yeah. Well, he has a temper too, right?
Yeah. Well, Yeah. I mean, Scott can be pretty protective of certain things, you know, where the switch will flip.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I can remember sitting up, we have a place up on Torch Lake, and I remember, I don't remember what it was. Some boat was going by our house real slow, and maybe somebody flipped us off or something like that. Scott just bolted out at the end of the dock, screaming, "You got a problem? You come on!" You know, I was like, "Go get him, dog!"
But you should see him though now, like Scott. I mean, we're not trying to throw him under the bus here, but you should see him working with these kids, coaching softball.
Yeah,
he's phenomenal at it.
Yeah,
and he goes after it. The cage. They had I remember being in their basement at Scott and Marie's house, like a cage, like a netting cage, batting cage in there. That's how they started it, and then they got this huge, what are they? They're not 4x4s. What are they? I mean, this big cage out in their on your yard too.
That's crazy.
They're serious about it,
and it works. You know, the dedication obviously is paying off. But yeah, that's what were we just talking about? Who would win that?
Who would win that?
Yeah, I mean, Scott was always the big brother. I was actually, if you talk to like Scott's friends, I was an annoying crybaby. Maybe I did. Maybe I did.
The bill.
Maybe I did cry a little bit more than I should have when I was little, but I was the baby.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
My mom always pat my back and hugged me if I was.
I got 3 boys. I think that's what Connor and Owen would say about Noah, and he's the youngest. You know, so I get it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But even my brother, I don't know what type of football player it is. To what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah,
I feel like it's a lot of times it's more of a mentality. I feel like Scott could have been successful in the NFL, but he didn't have that path, you know, that arc, you know. I think about so many people that I played with or that I know that, you know, it's a mentality. It really is. Obviously being big, you can't coach size, but you can create strength. You can teach technique, all that stuff, but there's such a mentality. And I'm almost positive that if my brother had the opportunity and wanted to, he could have played in the NFL.
Well, you talk to, Cody Cater's Montague guy, and I talk to Cody all the time. And Cody talk about who is his backup at Central. He's playing in their league right
Cooper
now.
Rush,
right? And Cody would tell you all day, like, in that that's just the kind of guy he is. Like, he goes, I was starting over that guy, you know. Like, he goes, I could have done, you know, like, and I tease him. I'm like, yeah, right, okay, Codes, but like, you know, but seriously, you look at that and you wonder, like, does he not, if he doesn't, you know, dislocate his shoulder, break his shoulder at Michigan, like, and he starts the whole rest of the year, maybe he does. You know, you just never know. Like you said, it's luck, it's mentality, it's like, you know.
The one thing that I don't know I think that it is luck, because I don't know how there's ways that you can try to prepare, but staying healthy, like, that has to be, well, there's 2 things to that. You have to have the drive to rehab and get over it if you want to stay and play. But there's some guys that are just lucky and never get nicked. And either that's a weird sense of like how people are falling around them or instincts or it's just luck.
Well, in the timing when that injury happens, you know, so you have that same injury when you're a freshman, it doesn't bother you. You have that same injury as a senior with a pretty good guy coming up as a sophomore or a junior that they're going to have for 2 years, and that person does a good job. Like, it's, you know, a lot of that is timing.
Yeah, it's like, so, you know, I was in Connecticut training for the draft, like we were talking about earlier, and I tore my pec, and I literally went into like this funk. I thought it was over, you know? Yeah. And then I was like, oh, well, you know, you've come this far. You might as well see if it's going to shake out. You know, you've hurt yourself plenty of other ways. This will heal too. I mean, it never healed the same way, but, and, crap, lost it.
No, you being prepared.
Dude. I mean, even that. I think that because at my pro day, I told them, I was like, listen, I tore my pec training. You know, I was just doing too heavy a weight.
Yep.
If you guys want me to do the 225 rep, I'll get down and I'll do as many as I can, or, you know, I can do 20 and rack it. You know, and I think that I won't irritate it anymore or whatever. And they're like, oh, that's fine, just do 20 and rack it. And so then I did that, and, you know, at least I think that just showing them that I was, you know, willing to do what they wanted me to, that's part of the mentality. They're like, okay, we can work with this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Interesting.
20 and racket, huh? 2 1/4. What's the most you could do? What do you think? Before you tore your pec?
I got up to 39.
Man.
Well, I hurt myself
Dad,
repping
you
405.
are stupid.
So
that
I was
is
doing,
just
like,
dumb. Like,
I was so meaty though right before the draft when I was
That
on
is
Connecticut
just-
training. It was like supplements, and everything, working out like 3 times a day.
39 times. Like you're talking about a weight. Like that's just crazy to me. Like that's like a gate weight. Like most people are shooting to be able. Yeah, that's. I'll just do it 39 times. I'll just do it 20 and rack it. What the heck?
Compare yourself to most people.
I know,
though,
I know, yeah, I know.
Depends on the
true.
depends on the path you're on.
I know.
It's all relative.
Yeah,
Then
I mean,
I felt like if I wasn't going to the combine, which I knew I wasn't at that point, I wasn't invited. I was like, well, I have to have like outstanding numbers, combine numbers. I have to be a freak to like even make noise. And so that's kind of what my junior 40 started to make some noise. They're like, wow, we got a 300-pounder that runs a sub 5.
that is nuts. That's probably more impressive than like a 300-pounder doing. That is nuts, dude.
Yeah.
Not anymore. I mean, I can't run it anymore, and it's not a nuts anymore. Like you see these guys at the combine,
You see the Georgia guy, that
D lineman.
Oh my gosh.
Glad I don't play anymore.
Oh,
I mean, it is. It's
Well,
Well, the
but
guys his size when I played weren't running that fast.
No.
Like, okay, we had
That's
Ted
just
Williams, who was like 450 pounds. Sean Rogers, who's like just under 400.
Yeah, they're-
over 400, depending on the week. I mean, they were special players, but they weren't like running a 4,
Fast.
7,
Yeah.
4.
Yeah. No.
This is insane.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But I think that we talk a lot on this podcast about just, parents and realistic expectations for kids and stuff like that. Like, I mean, you've seen the type of athlete, you've been that type of athlete. Like it's just a different level that like, I mean, even going from high school to small college, it's a different level. Then you start going high school to medium college or Division I, and then high level Division I. Like, and it's just like,
Well, it's you're like specializing as you get up, right?
Yeah,
So
it's
like
just nuts.
when I was in high school, I was trying to play as much as I could. A lot of that specializing is happening earlier now.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there was AAU was like just starting when I was younger.
Yeah.
That was the club thing. And now there's AAU, well, not called AAU, but any sport. You don't even have to play high school sports anymore if you don't want to.
travel sports. Yeah. So I don't know if I should mention the pod. Like, I watched Parker Hovey playing this weekend.
oh, okay.
Yeah, he was over at
you can play,
travel.
You can play in whatever sport you want, like you just said.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You can play year round.
Yeah.
Right. I think some kids could opt to play travel ball instead of playing for their high school now, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the smart move yet, but eventually,
It might be.
somebody's going to do it and they're going to make it. And
Well,
then
if you-
everybody's going to be like, well, why don't we just do that?
Yeah.
If you look at
Costs a lot more
soccer
money.
worldwide, right? Like you look at, I mean, that they kind of do that with soccer phenoms, right?
Yeah.
Like they have lower pro leagues and they pick them up at 12, 13
Right.
years old, and they're in some junior programs, and it's just a whole different like thing. I mean, high school athletics and college athletics is a little different for us here, when you look at that, but
There's a girl at Mona Shores I covered, a soccer player who didn't play for a high school team senior because she was like with one of the development.
yeah,
Teams or
yeah,
whatever.
like the national teams and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, it's crazy. Man, the things you've seen, like,
And I don't know if this is somewhat a family podcast, but some of the things that you've seen in the NFL,
Scott.
what are some of the like things that still you kind of fondly reminisce of, or just shake your head at you like, oh my God, what that really happened?
He's
Where do you start, right?
Yeah, I mean,
pass.
there's a lot of instances that I just kind of smile and shake my head like that. I'll never live that again. It was just in the moment. But I guess maybe one of them that is just there was a party at Javon Curse's house one time. And he lived over in New Jersey, where most of the guys lived back then. It's changed a lot now down there. But it was a bit of a hike out of the city. And I remember when we got to the party, we were like walking up to his house. It was a nice house. And as we're walking into the house, I look behind me, and there's a school bus, and it pulls up in front of the house. And off of that bus, just like girls start getting off this bus, college girls. It's like they went and picked up 50, 60 girls at the college or something and just brought them by bus. And I was just like, how does that even happen?
That's so wild.
That is
Who do
crazy.
you call for the bus of girls?
And Zach's like, "Where's this at again?"
Yeah, it's actually we're gonna need to talk after this. Like, oh, that's funny. Who's the best athlete you ever played with or saw?
Ooh,
Like a guy that you're just like freak. Like
Javon was pretty crazy. You know who's a really athletic person that you probably wouldn't think? Nick Foles. If
Really?
you watch Nick Foles on a basketball court, it's impressive.
really?
Yeah, he can sky. He's just very smooth. He has a great feel on the ball. Another person that can play basketball really well is Josh McCown.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's very good at basketball. But freak athletes, T.O. I mean, but he was a lot of effort into how freakish he was. Like
Right.
if you watched his regimen in the training room before practice and stuff, like he didn't have time for meetings sometimes because of his warm up routine and stuff. It was just crazy.
I'm gonna start saying
Dialed
it to Brent. Brent, I can't go to this meeting. I'm trying to get in the not physically, but mentally
prepared.
And that's right. I can't make your meeting
Hey,
today. Sorry, Brent.
if you get freak results, that's good with me, Scott. Like we can figure the rest of that out.
All right,
but
good.
That's funny.
And so I guess like some of the NFL like type things that blew my mind or kept my eyes open. In my first year, there was a lot of like drama because I thought that was the whole T.O. Donovan McNabb thing was going down.
Yeah.
And so I got to see that from like the inside, and it was weird because I knew Donovan and I knew Terrell separately, and then I'd see like Terrell in front of the camera in his driveway, and I'd be like, "What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Like, that's not you. What are you doing?" You know?
Yeah.
But it was weird. That year, we went down. My first game ever was down in Atlanta, and it was the first regular season game. So I wasn't dressed. I was a game day deact, is what they call it, where you just put sweats on. You know, like you're only able to dress, I think, 46 players on game day out of the 53 or something like that. So I was like, all right, cool. I'll just watch my first NFL game from the sidelines. Not a big deal.
You're kidding me, right? That's your first. Oh, you watch your first NFL game from the sideline. You've been to an NFL.
Oh,
game
yeah.
before that.
All right, but
Like, yeah.
I've been to like maybe one or two Lions games, I think. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But
Yeah.
but in that warm up, Ike Reese comes out to the middle of the field and starts talking crap to the Eagles because he played for the Eagles the year before when they just went to the Super Bowl. So like he knows these guys and stuff. Some of them get along, some of them don't. But I didn't know that dynamic really. And so all of a sudden, Trotter goes out to midfield and they start jawing at each other. Before I know it, there's a brawl in midfield before the game even starts. And I'm like, what is going on in the NFL? You know? And then I was like, this is crazy. Does this happen every week?
Yeah.
And so he got it. Trotter got ejected. Ike got ejected before the game even started. And I was just like, the NFL is so crazy.
That's
You know?
nuts.
I didn't know whether to go find a helmet to swing at people or what. I was just kind of like out the back of the mob. It's like, yeah, I'm supposed to be on the green team, but then like I'm new here. So like, you know?
That's awesome.
And then another thing with that season was just to watch how Andy like dealt with the whole T.O. Donovan thing.
Right.
I feel like, man, Andy Reid does not get enough credit for everything he goes through. That whole scenario, I felt like would have just broke a lot of people and made them not want to coach football anymore. You have your two biggest stars that if they got along could basically take you to the Super Bowl each year. And they just couldn't get on the same page. And then it became like this big distraction where he had to tell T.O. not to even come in. Hey, we're just going to stay at home. We don't want you in here. Like, I just thought this stuff that was going on was so crazy. And it was, I thought that was what the NFL was like. But then, it kind of leveled out after we got the roster under control. And it's crazy, though. Some people just want their spotlight and they want to be number one.
No humility. Yeah.
They don't want to have two number ones on the team.
Yeah.
I'd like to have lots of number ones on the team.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah. Yeah, that's
what a crazy
that's
dynamic.
nuts.
For sure. One of your favorite cities. I mean, you've got the chance to kind of
play
visit
in?
one. Yeah, to play in. Maybe even to visit. Like you get to hang out a little bit.
Yeah. So, really cool playing at Soldier and Arrowhead, Green Bay. Coolest thing about playing at Green Bay, because a lot of these old feeling stadiums have modern upgrades and stuff.
Right. Yep.
But there's cool parts, like when you play at Green Bay and you're in the visitors' locker room. From that locker room out to the field, you have to walk down this long, tiny tunnel, like a hall, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just, there's no doors or anything. It's just the tunnel that goes out to the field. And you're walking down it, and it's not much wider than your shoulder pads. And it's got this like green carpet, and the walls are like they were white at one point, but then back when the players were smoking cigars on the way to the game and stuff, you know, it's all like yellow and stained now. Like,
Oh, that's awesome.
and you just walk down there and you're like, man, how many guys walk through this? Like, how many legends have walked through this?
That's
on the way
crazy.
to the field? And that was one of the coolest memories that I have from, you know, where you feel like actually you're walking through history.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Arrowhead was really cool to play at. It's so loud. Arrowhead is one of the loudest stadiums I've ever been in. That Seattle's a very cool city and stadium. Let me think what else. There's some bad ones too.
I haven't heard Detroit in there at all. So
Detroit is cool. Detroit is cool.
hey, I live there. I know. I get it.
Ford Field is cool. I really liked playing in old Dallas Stadium compared to the new.
Yeah.
There was just I don't know. It had a feel to it, like you were playing where like Leon Lett played.
Yeah.
All those, you know, during their dynasty. That was a really cool place to play. I mean, Jerry's World is a very sight to be seen.
Yeah.
And it's special. I'm trying to think. There's some crappy ones.
Yeah. What about those? What about the worst ones?
Candlestick was crap. Just anywhere that they try transforming like a baseball field to a football field.
Just didn't fit and feel right.
Yeah.
And then Houston, they did this thing with their turf where they brought it in pallets. So like they would link together. There was grass growing on pallets, and then you would like click the pallets
Underneath
together.
it.
Yeah. And there was always these seams on the field that just seemed so
Didn't grow together and like
it was like I think D'Amico Ryans hurt himself on that field like 3 times. I think he might even have a lawsuit against either the Texans or the people that created that system or something, just because I think he tore his Achilles. I could be wrong, but I think he tore his Achilles in the same place on that field twice. Once while he was playing there, and then like once while he was playing with us in Philly.
Wow. Man. That's crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
But
so high school venues, where's your favorite place to play?
I was going to take it to that. I didn't know.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Scott.
No, it's good,
I mean,
because I was going to ask him
Citizens
about.
Field,
We'll get to that. We'll get to that too.
I actually have fond memories playing in Montague.
Really?
One game.
Did you play at the old field or did you play at the new field?
I think it was the old field.
The veterans.
Where the
field?
Where they're
bus,
right
like-
on top of you.
You're right
and
on
the,
it.
and the bus like pulled into where the pine trees kind of were
Yep,
unloading
yep, it
stuff.
went right into it.
And that's where we would go huddle up
Yeah.
at halftime and stuff.
Yep,
by the
there's no
buses.
locker room.
Right,
Yep,
yeah.
Yep.
So this is why that game sticks out in my head. Because you guys run that stupid offense. I don't know if you do anymore.
Oh,
No.
the wing tee
Yeah.
that they
No,
were
it's
running.
a spread now. It's completely
Everybody
different.
runs spread
Yeah,
now, right?
it's completely
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
But I remember it was like you guys were, I don't know if you were winning in the first half, but we weren't having a happy halftime. And I think the fullback was just kept eating us alive. And Coach Helson says to me, he said, Todd, if I put you at middle linebacker, can you tackle the fullback every play? And I was like, you know, like, you mean I don't have to put my hand in the ground? And he goes, I don't care what you do. He goes, just stand
tackle the
right here
fullback.
and tackle the fullback. And I was like, you know, I felt like he was calling me out. I was like, I can do that, you know. And I think we ended up winning the game. And I got to play linebacker. I was geeked about it.
That's
I also think it might have been on my birthday.
Double.
Yeah, I'm an
No,
October guy.
I remember
That's crazy.
Like that old state. That's where I grew up watching football games, and
Yeah.
like there were some really bad pieces to it. One, there was no locker rooms. Like it was, you know, but watching football and I always loved it. Like
The visitors side, they were literally right on top of you.
top of the field,
Like
yeah.
right on top of you.
It's
So who's your biggest like nemesis or rival in high school? We're rivals.
That's a good,
Ooh.
really good one.
Luke Abercrombie.
All right. Whitehall, right?
Yeah.
Whitehall.
I remember Luke. Yeah.
Luke was a really good athlete, and he probably doesn't even remember me or think that we ever had any kind of battles or anything. Just,
You kidding me? He's like, I used to battle with an NFL. The guy played in the NFL. I get to battle.
like people.
You're
I don't feel
probably
like people remember it.
You
like
are
that.
probably the topic of conversation every Christmas at his house.
Probably true.
Highly unlikely. But I do remember he was just, I don't know why. He was a bigger kid, but they let him handle the ball. And I was jealous of that in basketball. I was jealous that they let him like handle the ball. And I was like, I felt like I could do it, but I was big and slow. And you know, how sometimes people know better than you do. And then he was good at baseball. And I just remember playing against him from like junior high up every year, you know? But in that might not have been that game. Actually, it was at home. We were playing Whitehall at home one game. And I remember I had him blocked, and I went to try to like give him a little extra business or something like that. Like, yeah, let him know. And I think I like twisted my knee or something like that when I went to like twerk him. And I was like, I think I had to go out the rest of the game or something. I hurt myself. I like had a sprained MCL. I was like, I'm an idiot, dude.
That's awesome.
So I know we're starting to get running up against time a little bit, but
close.
I wanted to ask you what.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. What are you doing these days now? Like what fills your days besides obviously.
Besides podcasts.
Dadding
Yeah.
is a term that I saw in the story Tom Kender did for the MHSA.
Yeah.
Dadding
I
is
really
one big
enjoy
thing.
being a dad. I heard Jordan Peterson say, like, I listened to a lot of podcasts, and he popped up and he said something about like the first 4 years of your kid's life. He's like, there's no other time like that, and you'll never get it back. And it's imperative how their like structure is built in that time. And so I was just done with that career. It wasn't like I had to, we were very fortunate. I didn't have to go hop into anything else right away. And so my wife and I just made that decision. We're like, we're not going to do anything except just be here with our kids for the next 4 years. Or, we didn't put it at 4, but right now, while they're growing up, eventually they're going to get their lives and they'll be off doing school and sports, and we'll be watching that. But there's going to be a lot of time where they're doing something. We're going to have our own time to do whatever we want, So, so for the last 6 years, I've just been really enjoying being around my kids, doing that. I've had a couple other, I do some investing and stuff, but that's when we were talking about startups earlier. Like 3% of startups, whether it's an emerging market or, a new space or something tried and true like real estate, like only 3% succeed.
Yeah, it's
so
crazy.
Like, it's a gamble to start a business, to go out on your own. Like if you're trying to like provide for your family and start your own business, it's tough. And people that got the balls to do that, I take my hats off and salute them. Because I've invested in plenty of companies that have failed. My track record with investment isn't great. But.
That's funny. For me, like as this has grown, the hard part for me is the responsibility of you have the decisions that are being made impact these guys, impact everybody else, and impact a whole bunch of families, and that's a lot of stress, and there's a lot of so you want to make those best decisions and grow a team.
Well, essentially, you convince people to come here and work. So
some of them better than
gotta
others.
Be worth it.
Well,
but I know we're wrapping up.
No, you keep. You go as long as you want.
Time.
Okay. What did you guys?
Just what you're doing these days.
Yeah, what you're doing.
Oh yeah. I got into the cannabis space a little bit.
Nice.
Not really investing or starting business or anything like that, but just kind of took a big look at what my health was like when I was done.
Yep.
I was taking a lot of pills. And just kind of looking around to see if there was another avenue. I knew about cannabis, smoking weed.
Yep.
Had a little bit of a relationship with that through my career. But then CBD kind of got brought to me when I was done, and it was really a trendy topic, I guess.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were starting CBD companies, and all the regulation and stuff was just coming through.
Yep.
So I actually joined a former Flyers hockey player, Riley Cote, and we started a CBD brand called Body Check Wellness.
Oh, nice.
Where we do CBD tinctures. What we're really starting to get into now, which I feel like is kind of more evolved than just the CBD, because there's so many people that just spit out like crap CBD and sell.
Yeah, well, I mean,
they basically
that's what
sell
happens.
labels.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do is create like some proprietary blends with different type of mushrooms, and just we're really opening up the book on natural healing methods that have kind of, been forgotten since Big Pharma's taken over a lot of people's brains. And we're just kind of, there's a lot of like healing things in the world, especially in the mushroom world. That aren't.
You just screwed us out of any Moderna sponsorships.
Yeah, right.
Thanks,
Listen.
Jeez,
There are.
we were counting on that.
I don't know when to shut up, do I? Just
Yeah. No, keep going. I'm just messing with you.
I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to bastardize them. There's a place.
I'm totally kidding, man. Like, I'm totally kidding.
I mean, I think that there's a place for opioids. I think there's a place
absolutely.
for all that, I think a lot of it has to do in the trauma centers. Like, if you're getting surgery or
Right.
stuff like that, you don't need all that kind of stuff.
Not a
for
long-term.
daily stuff at home. And I think that that's where it's kind of mixed. There's a lot of natural stuff that isn't going to hook people, isn't going to make them dependent, that you can make yourself feel better.
Yeah, it is pushed too. Like my wife had ankle surgery a couple years ago, and like the whole idea of getting ahead of the pain and taking
Don't let yourself feel it.
Yeah,
like, take it every 4 hours. You don't want it to come. You don't want to feel it.
Yeah, and she's way tougher than I am. I'd have probably been like, yep. Yeah, but to her credit, ibuprofen. And she's like, yeah, no, I've had 3 kids. I'm going to be fine. And like, but the pressure to like,
my wife had our baby with no drugs.
That's insane.
Nuts.
That is.
And then after
she was not happy with you for a while.
There's 2 people that I know that are tougher than you. Scott Herremans and Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Herremans, that's right. But listen to this. So she actually tore her ACL after we had our second child, after Jackson was born. And then she did no drugs for the ACL.
Oh, that's tough too.
Oh my.
For the recovery or anything.
Kara tore a ligament in her ankle and had to have surgery. Very similar. They had to like repair it and everything.
Yeah.
She ibuprofen. She's at home and she's like, and she was up and around, and like all 3 of our kids she had C-sections with, and same thing. I'm like, I would be like,
right.
I'd be out of commission for 2 weeks. I'd be asking you to give me everything in the house, And
well, dude, I came from a world where it's like, if you're hurt, they'll give you whatever you want.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, that's
I appreciated it, but then at the same time, it's this whole mixed bag, So like, there's all these tools that are out there, but you don't always need the tools that are there. There's other tools that you could use. So it's just every scenario is different, and I don't want to try to speak for everybody.
No, I think So is your wife a good athlete?
Yeah.
What,
she was a dancer. She went to
nice.
University of Arts in Philadelphia for a little bit on a dance scholarship. She danced for the Sixers for a little bit.
Oh, really? How'd she tear her ACL?
And dance class.
Really?
After having kids. Supposedly there's this chemical released in your body called elastin or something like that to help your, the shifting of pregnancy and having kids and stuff like that. And it doesn't quite leave right away. So she was just in a dance class after having our second kid, Jackson, and just a normal move that she already did.
Dip pop.
Snap. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
She called me. She's like, I think I tore my ACL. I was
She's
like,
what?
yeah, okay, whatever.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Everyone always thinks they tore their ACL.
Yeah.
I thought I tore my ACL like 30 times. Just an MCL sprain,
Yeah. Kara did hers getting out of her recliner. Popped her ankle, like she got out, and I felt so bad. I made fun of her. I'm like, you just got out of the recliner. It's something stupid. And like, she went to the orthopedic, and then he's like, yeah, no, you need surgery. And she comes back, and she's like, told you, like same thing. Yeah, I had something snapped, and her I'm like, you just sprained it,
Yeah, as tough as I am, and as tough as the stuff that a lot of the injuries and stuff that I've gone through, like I don't know if I could do a surgery no drugs right now. And I know that I have a surgery or 2 coming up in the future,
So talk a little bit about that. Like, I mean, what's the toll on your body? Like, I mean, you talked about torn pec already. Like that's not insignificant. Like,
no, it's a pretty big toll.
Yeah.
And I think that it has to do with probably the longevity of the career. A lot of times, a lot of times guys can get hurt and have one injury like ruin their career.
Right.
And then, that injury will linger and stuff, but there's a lot of like wear and tear that really wasn't an injury on me that has just kind of deteriorated.
Arthritis or like, I got you.
I mean, I have probably one of my biggest things. I broke a bone in my foot, and then they put screws into it, and then it re-broke with the screws broke too, and now it's just kind of there broken. I have to get it taken care of. I talked to a foot doctor, and he was like, I'm surprised you're walking. He goes, but if it's not bothering you, he goes, just wait until it bothers you a little more. But
you're just walking around on a broke foot, and you're just like,
well, it's a broken bone in my foot.
Yeah, but that's kind of the definition of a broke foot, isn't it? Like,
I guess, yeah, more or less.
The whole thing doesn't.
Speaking of a broken foot, has your dad ever broke his foot off in your rear end just because he like I said earlier, he doesn't mess around. Yeah. I saw with John one time at a high school athletic event where he was out of control, and your dad's like, "I'll deal with you when we get home." So,
well, here and being the baby and seeing all of that,
you learn from it.
I was always knew not to step on the wrong side with my dad. Yeah, it's like this whole thing about fear and parenting and stuff like that, I don't know if I was ever scared of my dad. My dad says he was scared of his dad. My grandpa was a war vet and, beat the shit out of his cows, if they didn't do what it was supposed to. And my dad said, I saw my dad hit a cow, and he goes, that was enough for me. And, he's a no-nonsense type guy, but I got to see that with enough people. And
that's not the only,
stuff like that.
As he would say, that's not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different sides. There's a lot of different sides to him. And
he's a lot more patient now.
When you get older.
He would be the first to tell you.
Yeah.
I feel like I was very patient, and then I had kids, and my patience is like gone now. And so I'm waiting until I get back to being like a grandparent. It'll start to play out again.
It comes back like a little bit.
I would hope so.
I look at my parents and look at them, and I'm just like, who are you? Like,
you're like, you didn't raise
me. But yeah, before my dad passed, I'm just like, I had numerous talks with him. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, and he goes, what do you mean? I'm like, seriously, like, you just let that go? And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, don't even I'd have been dead. Like, I would have literally been in the driveway dead if I'd have done something like, I think that's baloney. I'm like, no, it's not. It's literally, who are you people? But
it was funny. Like, one of the things, and this isn't really a crazy story about my dad, but this just kind of tells you about how he is. So when I was home from college one time, I had a rap CD in my car's CD player. It was I made it. It was just a bunch of people, back then.
That's awesome.
Probably off LimeWire or something.
Yeah.
Napster, I believe, was the hot one.
Napster was back then. Yeah. You're dating yourself, buddy.
That's okay. I still feel like I'm one of the younger in the room. So
you are. Well, Zach's got us all, but
nice.
Scott and I,
yeah.
But anyway, he went to move my car because it was parked behind his truck, right? So he just hopped in, moved my car, didn't say a word to me, moved it, left out of his car, and then I went to go get my van. It was a minivan I was driving. Went to get my van later, and the CD was just sitting in the passenger seat, snapped in half. Didn't say a word to me. Just like, nope, not gonna listen to that. I don't care if you're in college or not.
That's awesome.
That is good.
I feel like that's good parenting.
Yeah, I would agree.
That's funny.
Well, I get in trouble if I kind of fess up about something we did in the dugout when your dad was coaching JV baseball. Our team did.
You won't get in trouble by me. Don't look at me. Maybe
this was back.
Now,
granted, this is back in the days of cassettes, right? Right. That shows how old
you know darn well 8-tracks were the rage back then.
We had some 2 Live crew pumping in the dugout when your dad was out coaching third base. And I think I'm sure he probably heard at least some hums and buzzes coming from the dugout, but he'd come back and we'd shut it off real quick.
Then you'd turn it back on. So I got a funny story. So this weekend, Noah was playing in some travel basketball stuff down in Wyoming, and the teams playing before him, they had to have been 3rd or 4th graders. Like, they were not very old. This team comes out, man, and their coach goes to half court, and he had a whole Bluetooth boom box. He had a whole warm up mix. These are 3rd and 4th graders, and Chad Peterson was sitting next to me, and he kind of looks at me, and I'm like, hey man, I guess if you got it, you got it, right? But it was crazy, man. So I'm thinking, okay, the music's gonna go. Dude, they start throwing down like F this and I'm
It wasn't
like,
Kids Bop.
it was not Kids Bop, and I'm like, these are 3rd and 4th graders. Like, holy cow, like
I don't even want to play them.
I'm like, I'm scared, man. No, it was pretty funny.
Take my lunch money. Here, fine.
Oh, that's
I
great.
totally just spelled out and called out my own character or lack of thereof.
You shameful, Scott.
With the 2 Live crew and with
That was
doing
like-
that behind coach's back.
That was
I
like
mean, I feel
65
bad,
years
kinda.
ago, wasn't it?
It was a long time ago. Long
Todd,
time.
how old are you?
I turned 40 in October
Yes,
this year.
He's you generationally, you're thrown into this mix. I think.
Well,
I'm
Not
44.
quite, almost,
Scott's.
I feel like I'm one of the
49.
oldest. I think I'm in the oldest millennial group.
Yeah.
It's not really a moniker I try to carry. But I think it starts in like 81 or 82 or something
Yeah,
like that.
it is. It was right after me. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. That's where my wife's 42. And that's, she just turned 40 actually.
So do you guys have like a generation gap?
Like here
No.
with my wife and I?
Yeah.
No, she was the youngest. So she grew up with a lot of older siblings. And so I think that like, she always says like, her oldest sister is about your age, Scott. I think she's 49 or 50. She might turn 50 this year. Her brother is like a year older than me, and then she's got a sister that's a year younger than me. So she feels like she grew up in the same. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like
She
I
was
think
listening to a lot of the same music.
same
and
music,
stuff. It was in the household,
same pop culture stuff, same like. And then she always makes fun of me too, because nowadays it's a little less like this. But she said like, actually though, if in that time frame you grew up in a small town, she said things got to you guys a lot later as well.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really true.
Like the popular music.
Yeah, popular music, fads, like back
That
then.
was before internet radio.
Yeah,
right?
it
So
took.
it was all regional.
Yeah, it took a long time for like those things to get to somebody from Montague, or from Ravenna, or like. So she's always making fun of me. She's like, you were like actually 3 or 4 years behind where you should have been,
Yeah.
'Cause she grew up in Boise, so she thinks she's from a big town. I guess I don't know, but yeah, no, that's good.
That is good.
So,
good.
what else? What else we got?
I mean, that covers the majority of what we talked about. I actually enjoyed it because
Because we didn't have to go down your list here. We just
we pretty much
it
covered
was more of a
everything.
hopping all over them.
Yeah, I mean,
It worked
kinda
good.
was,
You were
but
great,
We kind of
man.
covered
Yeah.
everything, which is awesome.
Yeah.
At least different stages of your life,
Todd, I'm gonna say you're probably top 3 best guests we've had. I mean, I just mean like your
think-
comfort on the mic, your
Yeah.
like the way, I mean
sure.
that's saying a lot because we're a big deal here, right? Like in our little tiny office.
Well,
in
I feel
Montague,
honored.
Whitehall, Michigan. Yeah,
I do. It's a nice setup you guys got here.
yeah, it
we
worked pretty
appreciate
good. Anything on there you want to comment on that you
Let me
see?
see here.
Why Montague's the best school in the West Michigan? I don't see that one in there.
How important it was that he retired as an Eagle. Well, you know what? That was actually really important to me, and it's not really so much of a thing anymore than it is like a courtesy that the team can do for you. Because once you're off of a roster for 2 years, you're automatically retired. So I guess you could come out of retirement after 2 years if you wanted to, but that's more of a formality. And just the fact that the Eagles would do that for me and
Yeah, it says a lot.
create this fake contract for me to sign for a day and then like be the captain for the game. and
You're
stuff
like, "Where's my
that.
check?"
Only when I signed for free.
That's funny.
Yeah, that was important. I love the organization. I love the city. I felt like it ended a little,
Yeah.
almost like it was a loose end that I was kind of able to tie up, at least in my head. I doubt anybody in the city felt that way, but probably nobody in the organization felt that way either.
So I got one as I'm looking at this. So you talked about what you're doing after football, but like, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do other than art
man.
and that kind of
Okay.
stuff? Like I think that's a really interesting thing.
So this kind of goes into my dadding skills here. One of the most important things that I felt like my dad taught me was how to work hard, and that was through athletics, through academics, but the majority of it was what we did at home. We lived on a farm. We grew a garden. We had cattle. We cut our own firewood, like all this type of stuff. We didn't have a riding lawnmower, so we push mowed 2 acres.
Yeah. That's about
and all
4 or
of
5
that.
hours worth of work. I did that. Girl.
Yeah. And so it was a lot of like, I felt like, what's the best way to say this? He wasn't like saying, you got to work hard. It was just kind of like, it was the atmosphere in which I was brought up. It was just something we did. Yep. And so I mentioned how I bought a farm earlier. I don't know how to raise kids in the city. I was never raised in the city. I know how to raise kids on a farm, and I'm going to do my best to do that and just kind of replicate the stuff.
Your poor kids.
And so,
no, it's great.
And my dad was a coach and a teacher, and my mom was a teacher as well, and took care of a lot of stuff at home. And they were just both very dedicated and hardworking, and they made sure that we were always comfortable and everything was taken care of. And we knew that. But for my kids, I don't want them to be like whiny, spoiled, kids that were fortunate to, have their parents constantly around them. And I mean, that sounded weird. But we don't have to go to work every day and like put them in daycare or anything like that. But I also don't want them to become soft by that. So I want to be able to teach them hard work. And it's not like I'm going and punching a clock every day. It's not like I'm going to have them sit on my lap and be like, oh, let's look at this investment and, to check out the return, or how long is this going to be? Does this weigh well against the stock market? Blah, 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 and it's just like, that's not going to teach them hard work, So I think hard work is an important trait to have. And so I bought a farm, and I'm turning it into what I call a country club farmer. I'm not going to try to turn any profit. There's not going to be any horses. Everybody pays rent on my farm. We got 2 goats that are like land maintenance clearing goats right now. We got chickens who give us eggs. And we're going to get some beef cattle, start rolling some beef cattle and doing that whole thing.
I hate goats, by the way. I had traumatic experiences with goats in my youth.
Can we hear it?
Yes, you can absolutely. I told Zach this story actually this weekend at the Muskegon Ironman game, I think. Like, my grandparents had a farm and they had goats. And my parents and my grandparents thought the funniest thing to do in the entire world, and they had like 15 goats. I mean, it was like
a lot of goats. Yeah.
The funniest thing in the entire world was to throw 5-year-old Brent into the fence with the goats. And I think these goats are nice. I think let's go pet the goats. And then they would proceed to knock me over for like, as a kid, it seemed like 2 hours.
Eternity.
2 hours. And and then they just stood outside the fence and thought it was the funniest thing in the world. These goats were relentless. Every time I stood up, they'd knock me down.
So you were upset at the goats, but not the people that put you in the pen with the goats?
I didn't say it was rational, Todd. I did not say it was rational. But yeah. No.
All right, I understand that.
Yeah.
No wonder why he never uses the expression, he's the goat.
Me and goats.
Me
and goats. I'm still scared of them to this day, I think.
That's true.
But
yeah, I'm just trying to teach them some hard work around the farm. And
That's
stuff,
good.
I feel like.
So you got goats, you got chickens. What else you got? Any cows?
We're going to get beef. I'm not sure exactly when. I'm going to start small. I don't want to take on more than that. It's like our garden. I don't want to. My parents had this huge garden our whole life, right? And I was like, my wife's like, I want to grow a big garden. I'm like, all right, cool.
And then you think back.
I think back to how much I hated weeding and all this stuff. I'm trying to think of like, okay, now I'm thinking of like advanced gardening, right? So we're going to grow corn. And now what I'm going to do is amongst the corn, I'm going to plant sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
Because apparently the leaves, our cover crop, won't let the weeds grow in the corn.
See?
And then the potatoes grow underground where you don't really need deep roots for the corn. So I'm trying to like advance it a little bit.
You should do a farming podcast and just go over all of the like how this goes, because I'd listen to it.
Did you ever play the farming game that Tim and Scott played?
No.
But
my nieces are on it now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they're showing
There's a farming game, like a board game.
Oh yeah. Oh, like a real board game.
Oh, there's an app now.
There's an app now.
Yeah, I was gonna say like
Farmville or something.
Like this is old school, like the board game.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember watching them play that. It was kind of like Risk, but with farming, right?
That's funny.
I was more into Risk. But yeah, so the garden, I don't want to like try to plant 400 things and then have like nothing turn out and then be like, you know what, gardening's not for me. So I'm just going to try to plant like 3 things, have a nice crop, and then expand on it every year. You know, I'm trying to ease into it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like that you're trying new things though. I mean, that's awesome. How many acres you got?
30.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. That's good size.
Not as big as what I grew up on, but for our area where we're at, it's a good chunk. And it's nice.
Right?
It's scenic. There's like a little valley.
Do your mom and dad still farm then?
Yeah, my dad and my brother have turned out this little small scale. They do a little beef. They do some beef cattle, friends and family type stuff.
Yep.
And then they do a huge garden every year.
Yeah.
Which takes a little, but they have people that come and help them and stuff with it too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they want to keep doing it every year. I hear them like talking about more and more spending more time down in Florida. And,
it was a place warm.
I think it felt really good this year. They were down there for like a whole month, and my dad's talking about, I could probably do it for 2 months a year.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm like, go for it, dude. You deserve it.
Yeah. No, that's
For
awesome.
sure.
But other than that, day to day, yeah, man, just trying to be a good example for my kids. You know, I think that's the toughest thing. I do a lot of reading, which I think influences like
What's your favorite book?
my thought process a lot. Ooh. So one of my most inspiring books that I read lately, I listened to.
Yeah.
It's The New Read.
My kids correct me every time I say read. You'd listen to, Dad. You didn't really read
right.
it.
My wife does the same thing. So you don't read stuff. It's called Third Plate by Dan Barber, who's a chef. And he's a chef at this restaurant called Stone Barn Blue Hill in upstate New York. And it's basically, I mean, the whole book is really about a lot of stuff, but it's mostly about like, what is the future of food going to look like? You know, are we going to out-farm ourselves, or are we going to be able to, out-farm ourselves, fish ourselves, out-kill us, out-hunt ourselves, or are we going to be able to, you know, find out a delicious way to use the byproduct, the bycatch of certain things that the fishermen are just throwing away or throwing back. And so the way that he's a chef and an author, so like the way that he describes food, it makes my mouth water just reading it, you know?
Then how are you able to, you look great. How are you able to keep that weight off then?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm very active, so I'm always moving around.
Yeah.
I'm also trying to learn a little bit of like body hacking and stuff like that. So I do the intermittent fasting thing.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I always naturally did. I kind of had to always force myself to eat breakfast, and I just felt like I was going to be unhealthy if I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I generally don't eat until, I don't really consume anything other than water or coffee until about 2:00 in the afternoon now. And some days, well, if I'm really sticking to it well, I'll have like a protein shake at 2 and then like one meal, kind of like one meal a day type thing. But lately I've kind of been off the wagon a little bit. But 2:00 hits and I just become like a feeding frenzy.
Gorge yourself.
Until I fall asleep. Yeah. And it's just a matter of discipline and getting back on the horse. But
So Third Plate's your favorite book.
yeah.
What's one you're reading right now? Like, you got anything going?
Let's see what my listening has going on. I just listened to a podcast on the way up here is what I was doing rather than a book.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, do a lot of that too.
New podcast I'm on. I just finished this book. It's called No Rules. It's like how Netflix's company was created.
Yeah, I've read
how
it.
they kind of it's pretty insightful,
interesting,
right?
Yeah.
It's like they take a lot of gambles in building that company.
It's crazy. Like, yeah.
Because you think in like a normal structure of a business, you're like, how could you ever just wing it like that and expect?
If you like that, good podcast to listen to How I Built That.
How I Built That?
Oh, it's phenomenal. They go through, like, I think last one I listened to, I forwarded Zach a couple of these Discord, and they go through like Whole Foods, and they like, and it's crazy sometimes, like listening to, like, I think the last one I listened to was the guy that built the Leatherman, and his journey, and like how that thing was around. He had a patent on it for 20 years before somebody finally, like, and how much money he dumped into it, and like, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So that's a really good
that would be a
podcast.
good one. I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, the new podcast I'm listening to is called the Huberman Lab.
I'm gonna write that down.
Guy's name is, I don't know, Matt Huberman, maybe Huberman. Yeah.
Okay.
And he's a professor of neuroscience, and so he's all into body hacking, talking about simple things you can do, not like shoving a whole bunch of supplements down your throat, but just talking about like body temperature is like one of the biggest untapped resources that people could use, and they really don't have to do a lot to like do that. So your body naturally has this. I'm gonna sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I actually listened to it twice now because I wanted it to like sink in a little more, you know. your body temperature naturally has this like arc. So you're cold at night and you heat up throughout the day and you cool back down at night. That's why people like to sleep in a cold room. And if you wake up, when you wake up, your body's naturally rising. If you go ahead and do something to activate your body, like walk on a treadmill for 20 minutes or something like that, you're going to elevate that even more. So your body temperature and your metabolic system, everything is going to spike more than it would have if you just woke up and started your day, you know? So it's almost like giving it a jump drive in the morning to like get your system going. And then at night, to do the opposite thing and try to cool you down, I think like an hour before bed, you're either supposed to 20 minutes of steam, sauna, hot tub, hot shower would even work. Kind of counterproductive, but you're heating your body up really hot because then your body's like, oh, send out the coolers. And then once you step out of the shower, you're kind of cold because your body's starting to cool down like crazy. And so you go hop into bed.
That's awesome.
And so just those two things, guys.
I wrote it down. I wrote it down. That's going to take me from...
And there's also like, he has all sorts of like really good tidbits about like, I know a lot of people have problems with sleeping.
Yeah.
And then they take melatonin because melatonin has been this association with sleep, but really it only helps you fall asleep. And he said that he just stays away from it. So he gives you other options of like things to use instead of melatonin. And he kind of goes into melatonin and, when people take melatonin, they get like 3 gram servings or 3 milligrams or something like that. And you know how there's what you're allowed to have in a bottle versus what's on the label. The percentages of that amount being accurate is somewhere between like 50% and 164% what's labeled on there. And so your body really only needs like 1.5 milligrams a day, or your body naturally produces. So it's like,
that's crazy.
And he's like, and it's also a endocrine disruptor. So he's just very knowledgeable.
I wrote it down. I'm going to listen to it.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, what else am I do except make myself healthier if I can?
There you go.
No, it's interesting stuff for sure. Anybody else have anything to add?
No. My battery's going to die, so you need to take us out, buddy.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much for tuning into episode 24, and thank you, Todd, for joining us.
Thanks for being here. It was great.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Great job.
Come back anytime if you have me.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. And then our last thank you to
I got
Van
a lot
Dyke
to
Mortgage.
say if you can't tell.
Yeah, we loved it, man.
Yeah,
honestly.
it was great.
And our last thank you to Van Dyke Mortgage for for sponsoring the podcast and making sure that we can do what we love to do.
Absolutely.
So, thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys next time.